The Varith homeworld loomed ahead, a dark and foreboding planet cloaked in swirling storms. Its jagged surface bristled with defensive towers and glowing energy grids, a fortress designed to repel any intruder. The combined fleet of the Eclipse and the Concord Alliance approached cautiously, their ships weaving through asteroid fields to avoid detection. Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the ominous world below. "This is it," he said quietly, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "No turning back." Emily Dawson nodded, her hands flying across the console as she coordinated the fleet's movements. "All units are in position. Ready when you are." Marcus Lane stood nearby, his face pale but determined. He had spent hours briefing the team on the layout of the Varith Command Center, a towering structure at the heart of the planet. It was heavily guarded, but Marcus believed they could breach its defenses if they acted quickly. The attack began with a barrage of missiles, targeting key points in the Varith defense grid. Explosions lit up the horizon as the fleet advanced, drawing the enemy's attention. Dozens of Varith fighters surged forward to intercept, but the human forces held their ground, firing relentlessly. The battle raged in the skies, a chaotic dance of light and destruction. On the ground, a small strike team led by Daniel and Emily made their way toward the command center. Claire Harper stayed behind on the Eclipse, monitoring communications and providing support. Rachel Bennett carried the artifact, its faint glow pulsing like a heartbeat. They moved swiftly, dodging patrols and disabling security systems along the way. As they neared the central tower, resistance grew fiercer. Varith soldiers poured into the corridors, forcing the team to fight for every inch of progress. Emily took charge, her tactical mind guiding them through ambushes and traps. "Keep moving," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We're almost there." Finally, they'd reached the core chamber, a massive room dominated by a pulsating orb suspended in midair. This was the Overmind, the sentient hive entity controlling the Varith. Its presence filled the room, a hum of energy vibrating through the air. "You've got what you came for," Marcus said, glancing nervously at the artifact. "Now do it." Rachel stepped forward, holding the device aloft. She pressed a sequence of buttons, activating its mechanisms. The orb reacted violently, sending out waves of energy that knocked everyone off their feet. The room shook, debris falling from the ceiling. "We need more time," Rachel yelled, struggling to stabilize the connection. Daniel grabbed his weapon and fired at incoming Varith reinforcements, giving Rachel cover. Emily joined him, her aim steady and precise. Together, they held the line long enough for Rachel to complete the process. Suddenly, the Overmind's glow dimmed. The hum faded, replaced by an eerie silence. The Varith soldiers froze, their movements halting as if disconnected from their master. It was done. The Overmind was neutralized. Outside, the battle ended abruptly. Without the Overmind's guidance, the Varith forces retreated, their will to fight broken. The humans emerged victorious, battered but alive. Back aboard the Eclipse, Daniel addressed the crew. "Today, we proved that humanity can overcome even the greatest odds. But this isn't just about winning a war. It's about building a future where peace is possible." As the fleet prepared to leave the Varith homeworld behind, hope burned brightly in their hearts. The scars of war would remain, but so would the resilience of those who had fought for something greater than themselves. For now, the stars seemed a little brighter, a reminder that humanity's legacy was far from over. Back aboard the Eclipse, the mood was somber. The rescued prisoners huddled together in the cargo bay, their faces pale and weary. Some cried quietly, while others stared blankly into space, still processing what they had endured. Among them was Marcus Lane, his sharp features softened by exhaustion. He approached Daniel Carter cautiously, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Captain Carter," he began, his voice low but steady, "I know you have no reason to trust me, but I need to explain." Daniel studied him carefully, his expression unreadable. "Talk." Marcus took a deep breath. The Varith captured me during an ambush near Proxima Centauri. They interrogated me, trying to learn about our defenses. At first I resisted, but when they threatened to harm innocent civilians, I made a choice. I fed them false information, data designed to mislead them. That's why you found me here. I was waiting for a chance to escape. Emily Dawson stepped forward, her arms crossed. Why should we believe you? You were seen working with them. I don't blame you for doubting me, Marcus admitted. But ask yourself this. If I truly sided with the Varith, why would I risk my life to help you infiltrate their stronghold? His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Daniel glanced at Emily, who gave a slight nod. For now, they would listen, but trust would have to be earned. Meanwhile, Dr. Rachel Bennett continued analyzing the artifact Claire had discovered on the moon. Her progress was slow, but she finally uncovered something significant. These symbols aren't just coordinates, she explained during a briefing. They're instructions for disabling the Varith's central command network. If we can reach their homeworld and use this device correctly, we might cripple their entire operation. The room fell silent as the weight of her discovery sank in. A direct strike against the Varith heartland was risky, almost suicidal, but it offered a chance to end the war once and for all. We'll need allies, Daniel said after a moment. We can't do this alone. Marcus spoke up again. Let me help. I have contacts within the Concord Alliance, the faction that opposes the Varith. Many of them are disillusioned former collaborators who want out. With their support, we could assemble a force strong enough to take the fight to the enemy. It was a gamble, trusting someone like Marcus, but Daniel knew they had little choice. All right, he said finally. Reach out to your people. But remember, if you betray us, there won't be a second chance. As preparations began, tensions among the crew eased slightly. Jake's sacrifice had united them, reminding them of their shared purpose. Claire worked tirelessly alongside Rachel, helping refine the plan to deploy the artifact. Even Jake's death wasn't in vain. His bravery inspired everyone to push harder, to give their all for the mission. Days passed, and Marcus delivered on his promise. A small fleet of ships arrived, crewed by members of the Concord Alliance. Their leader, a grizzled veteran named Commander Harris, greeted Daniel with a firm handshake. You've got guts, Captain. We're with you. With reinforcements in place, the combined forces set a course for the Varith homeworld. As the eclipse led the way, Daniel stood on the bridge, staring out at the stars. The journey ahead would test them all. But he felt a flicker of hope. Humanity had faced countless challenges throughout history, always finding a way to persevere. This time would be no different. We're not just fighting for survival, Daniel said softly, more to himself than anyone else. We're fighting for a future where no one has to live in fear. And with that, the fleet surged forward, ready to confront the enemy head-on. Whatever awaited them, they would face it together. The battle at the Varith stronghold raged on, a chaotic swirl of blaster fire and shouts. Jake Miller lay wounded on the cold, metallic ground, his breathing shallow but steady. Emily Dawson crouched beside him, shielding him from enemy fire as she called for backup over her comms. We need extraction now, she yelled, her voice tight with urgency. From the eclipse, Daniel Carter listened to the chaos unfolding below. His knuckles turned white as he gripped the edge of the command console. Send in reinforcements, he ordered, his voice firm despite the storm of emotions inside him. Claire Harper quickly relayed the message to the reserve team, her hands trembling as she worked the controls. The ground team fought valiantly, pushing deeper into the facility despite the mounting odds. The Varith soldiers were relentless, their movements precise and calculated. But humanity had something the aliens didn't: desperation. Every shot fired, every step taken, was fueled by the hope of rescuing the captives and turning the tide of the war. Emily managed to drag Jake behind a fallen pillar, using it as cover while another teammate provided suppressing fire. Hold on, Jake, she said, pressing a makeshift bandage to his wound. "You're not leaving us." Jake groaned, forcing a weak smile. "Just don't let me slow you down." Moments later, the reinforcements arrived, led by a young soldier named Alex. Together, they formed a defensive line, allowing Emily and Alex to carry Jake back toward the extraction point. The retreat was brutal. Every step contested by Verith forces, but the team refused to give up. Inside the stronghold, the remaining crew members located the prisoners. They were held in a dimly lit chamber, shackles binding their wrists and ankles. Their faces were gaunt, their eyes hollow from weeks or months of captivity. When the doors burst open and the rescue team appeared, some cried out in disbelief, while others simply stared, too exhausted to react. "Get them moving," Emily shouted, helping one prisoner to his feet. "We don't have much time." As the group made their way back through the facility, the Verith launched a counterattack. Explosions rocked the corridors, sending debris raining down on the fleeing humans. Claire's voice crackled over the comms, warning them of incoming hostiles. "They're cutting off your escape route," she warned. "Find another way out." Thinking quickly, Emily led the group into a maintenance tunnel, a narrow passage that bypassed the main hallways. It was dark and cramped, but it gave them a fighting chance. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. The Verith weren't giving up. Then came the moment no one wanted to face. As the team neared the exit, a massive blast shook the structure, collapsing part of the tunnel. Claire, who had been monitoring the situation from the eclipse, realized what had happened. "Jake's signal is fading," she cried, her voice breaking. He stayed behind to hold them off. Daniel clenched his jaw, pain flashing across his face. "No," he whispered. Back in the tunnel, Jake stood alone, his weapon raised as he faced an overwhelming number of Verith soldiers. He fired until his weapon ran dry, then hurled it aside, grabbing a fallen enemy's blade. With a roar, he charged forward, buying precious seconds for his teammates to escape. When the dust settled, all that remained was silence. Outside, the survivors emerged into the harsh light of the alien world. The eclipse hovered above, its engines roaring as it prepared for pickup. One by one, the freed prisoners boarded, their faces etched with gratitude and grief. Among them was Marcus Lane, a man once thought to be a traitor. His presence shocked everyone, but there was no time to question him now. As the ship ascended, Daniel looked out at the burning stronghold below. Victory had come at a terrible cost. Jake's sacrifice weighed heavily on them all, a reminder of the price of freedom. Yet amidst the sorrow, there was also resolve. The war wasn't over, but they had struck a blow against the Verith, and saved lives in the process. For better or worse, humanity had proven it could endure. And as long as they stood together, they would keep fighting, for Earth, for each other, and for the future. The eclipse was finally ready to leave the moon behind, its systems repaired and engines humming with restored power. But the artifact Claire had found weighed heavily on everyone's mind. Dr. Rachel Bennett, still trying to prove her loyalty, volunteered to study it further. She spent hours in the lab, running tests and analyzing the strange symbols etched into its surface. Her findings were both fascinating and troubling. "It's some kind of data storage device," Rachel explained during a briefing on the bridge. "The symbols are part of a language, not Verith, but something older. I think they might be instructions or coordinates." Daniel Carter frowned. "Coordinates for what?" "I'm not sure yet," Rachel admitted. "But if we can decode them, it could lead us to something important, maybe even their central command." Emily Dawson glanced at Daniel. "If that's true, this could change everything. We'd have a direct shot at hitting their leadership." Jake Miller, ever cautious, wasn't convinced. "Or it could be a trap. You really trust her to figure this out?" He jerked his thumb toward Rachel, who flinched under his glare. "We don't have much choice," Daniel said firmly. "Rachel knows more about xenobiology than any of us, and right now she's our best shot at cracking this thing." The tension between the crew members lingered, but there was no time to dwell on it. As Rachel continued her work, the rest of the team prepared for the next phase of their mission, infiltrating the Varith stronghold where the human prisoners were being held. The stakes were higher than ever, and failure wasn't an option. Days passed, and progress on the artifact remained slow. Frustration mounted, especially among those who doubted Rachel's intentions. Then, one evening, she burst onto the bridge, her face flushed with excitement. "I got something," she exclaimed, holding up a tablet displaying a series of numbers and patterns. "What is it?" Daniel asked, leaning closer. "It's a map," Rachel replied, "a route through their defensive network. If we follow these coordinates, we can slip past their patrols and reach the facility undetected." Emily studied the map carefully. "This could work, but it's risky. One wrong move, and we'll be walking straight into a trap." "We've done riskier things," Daniel said, determination hardening his voice. "Let's do it." The plan came together quickly. Jake and Emily would lead the ground team, while Daniel stayed aboard the Eclipse to coordinate the operation. Claire offered to help monitor communications from the ship, her engineering skills proving invaluable once again. Even with Rachel's contribution, however, not everyone trusted her completely. Jake kept a close eye on her, his hand never far from his weapon. As the Eclipse approached the designated drop zone, the mood aboard the ship grew tense. Everyone knew what was at stake: the lives of the captured humans, and perhaps the future of humanity itself, depended on their success. When the moment came, the ground team disembarked in silence, moving swiftly through the shadows. Using Rachel's map, they navigated the labyrinthine defenses of the Varith stronghold. For a while, everything went according to plan. They avoided patrols, disabled security systems, and reached the outer perimeter of the facility without incident. But then, disaster struck. An unexpected patrol appeared, forcing the team to take cover. In the chaos, Jake spotted movement, a Varith soldier closing in on their position. Without hesitation, he opened fire, drawing attention away from the others. His bravery gave Emily and the rest of the team a chance to regroup, but it came at a cost. "Jake's down," someone shouted over the comms. Daniel clenched his fists as he listened from the Eclipse. "Get him out of there," he ordered. Claire's voice crackled through the line. "We're working on it, but he's badly injured." In that moment, the weight of leadership pressed down on Daniel harder than ever. Every decision mattered. Every life counted. And as the battle raged below, he realized that war wasn't just about winning. It was about sacrifice. The question was, how much were they willing to lose to save the ones they loved? The fight wasn't over yet. The Eclipse limped through space, its damaged systems flickering like a dying heartbeat. After narrowly escaping detection by the Varith, the crew had been forced to flee deeper into uncharted territory. The sabotage caused by Rachel Bennett's actions had left the ship vulnerable, and now they needed a safe place to make repairs. Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, his hands gripping the railing as he stared out at the desolate expanse of space. "We're running out of time," Emily Dawson said, her voice tight with urgency. "If we don't fix the engine soon, we won't have enough power to reach the next jump point." Daniel nodded grimly. "Find us somewhere to land. Anywhere close." It wasn't long before the sensors picked up a faint signal, a distress beacon from a nearby moon. The readings showed traces of human activity, though no colony in that region was officially recorded. Hoping for answers and a temporary haven, they set a course for the surface. As the Eclipse descended, the barren landscape came into view. Cracked plains stretched endlessly under a pale gray sky, dotted with the skeletal remains of buildings. It was clear that this place had once been a human settlement, but something had driven its inhabitants away, or worse. Jake Miller led a small team onto the surface, armed and cautious. The air was thin, forcing them to rely on their suits' oxygen supplies. As they explored the ruins, they discovered signs of a hasty evacuation. Overturned furniture, scattered belongings, and walls scrawled with frantic messages. But there were no bodies. Whatever had happened here, it had left no trace behind. Then they found her. Huddled in the corner of a crumbling structure was a woman, her face streaked with dirt and exhaustion. She introduced herself as Claire Harper, a former engineer who had survived alone for months after the colony fell apart. Her story was fragmented, but she spoke of strange lights in the sky and whispers in the night, things that made little sense but hinted at an alien presence. Claire's arrival brought mixed reactions aboard the Eclipse. Some, like Emily, saw her as a valuable asset. "She's an engineer," Emily argued. "She can help us repair the ship faster than we could on our own." Others, like Jake, were more skeptical. "We don't know her," he growled. "For all we know, she could be another spy." But Daniel decided to give Claire a chance. With Rachel still earning back trust, they needed every skilled hand they could get. Reluctantly, Jake agreed to work alongside her, though his distrust was evident in every glance he shot her way. Over the next few days, Claire proved her worth. Her knowledge of engineering rivaled even Jake's, and her determination inspired the crew. Under her guidance, they managed to restore critical systems, bringing the Eclipse back to operational status. Yet Claire also uncovered something unsettling during her work, an artifact buried deep within the ruins. It pulsed faintly with an otherworldly light, covered in symbols none of them recognized. "This wasn't left here by accident," Claire said, showing it to Daniel and Emily. "Whoever abandoned this place wanted us to find it." Emily studied the object carefully. It might hold information about the Verith, maybe even clues about their plans. As they prepared to leave the moon, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Shadows moved in the distance, and eerie sounds echoed across the empty plains. Though they departed without incident, the experience left them uneasy. Back aboard the Eclipse, Daniel reflected on what they'd learned. The artifact, Claire's survival, and the mysterious fate of the colony all pointed to a larger puzzle, one that might hold the key to understanding the Verith. But for now, their priority remained clear: rescue the prisoners and strike back against the enemy. War had a way of revealing truths, both beautiful and terrible. And as the Eclipse sailed onward, Daniel knew they were closer than ever to uncovering the heart of the conflict. The Eclipse hovered silently near the edge of the Verith stronghold, its crew working tirelessly to finalize their plan. Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes scanning the monitors as Emily Dawson fine-tuned the infiltration strategy. The tension in the air was palpable, each crew member aware of the risks ahead. They had one chance to get this right. As Emily adjusted the holographic map, a sudden alert flashed on her screen. She frowned and leaned closer. "Captain, we've got something here. It's another transmission, this time from inside the facility." Daniel stepped over, his brow furrowing. "What does it say?" "It's fragmented," she admitted, her fingers flying across the console. "But there are mentions of humans working with the Verith." Her voice dropped. "Not just prisoners. Collaborators." The room fell silent. The idea of humans aiding the enemy was unthinkable, yet the evidence was undeniable. Daniel clenched his fists. Who would do that? And why? Before anyone could answer, Sergeant Jake Miller entered the bridge, his face grim. "Sir, I think you need to see this." He held up a damaged piece of equipment, a sensor array that had been tampered with. "Found it in the lower deck. Someone's been messing with our systems." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Sabotage? On his ship? How bad is it?" "Bad enough," Jake replied. "If we don't fix it, the Verith will detect us for sure." Emily crossed her arms. "This isn't random. Whoever did this knows what they're doing." Daniel turned to the crew. "We have a mole aboard. Someone feeding information to the Verith." The accusation hung heavy in the air. Suspicion flickered in the eyes of everyone present. Trust, already fragile, began to crumble. Rachel Bennett, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "It's not me," she said firmly, though her voice wavered slightly. "I came here to help, not betray humanity." Jake shot her a skeptical glance. Easy to say that now. Enough, Daniel barked, cutting off the rising tension. Pointing fingers won't solve anything. We need proof. Over the next few hours, the crew worked to repair the damaged equipment while keeping a close watch on one another. Paranoia spread like a virus, eroding morale. Even Daniel found himself questioning those around him. Was it Jake, whose loyalty had never been questioned until now? Or Emily, whose calm demeanor masked a sharp mind capable of betrayal? Or perhaps Rachel, whose quiet presence made her easy to overlook? Then, late into the shift, Emily made a discovery. Hidden deep within the ship's logs was a series of encrypted messages sent to an unknown recipient. After some decoding, she traced them back to Rachel. Shocked, she confronted the xenobiologist in the lab. Rachel froze when Emily revealed the evidence. For a moment, she looked like she might deny it. But then her shoulders slumped in defeat. "I didn't have a choice," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "They took my family, threatened to kill them if I didn't cooperate." Emily hesitated, torn between anger and pity. "You should have told us." "I couldn't risk it," Rachel pleaded. "Please believe me. I didn't want to hurt anyone." When Daniel arrived, Emily explained what had happened. He studied Rachel carefully, weighing her words. Finally, he sighed. "We can't afford mistakes. If we let you go, you'll lead them straight to us." Rachel nodded, understanding the gravity of her situation. "Then let me make amends. Help me decode those transmissions. I know their patterns better than anyone. It's the least I can do." After a long pause, Daniel agreed. "All right. But if you step out of line, even once, you're done." The decision divided the crew further. Jake openly disagreed, arguing that Rachel couldn't be trusted. Emily, however, supported Daniel's call, believing that redemption was possible, even in war. As repairs were completed and preparations resumed, the atmosphere remained tense. The shadow of betrayal lingered, a reminder of the cost of trust in desperate times. Yet amidst the uncertainty, one thing was clear: the mission had to succeed. The fate of the captured humans, and perhaps all of humanity, depended on it. The Eclipse drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its sleek hull blending into the darkness like a shadow. Inside, the hum of machinery and the soft glow of control panels created an atmosphere of quiet tension. Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the navigation screen as the ship approached the edge of Varith territory. Beside him, Lieutenant Emily Dawson monitored the sensors, her fingers moving deftly across the console. "This is it," Daniel said, his voice low but steady. "Once we cross this point, there's no turning back." Emily nodded without looking up. "The Varith patrols are unpredictable. If they detect us, we'll have to move fast." Daniel glanced at the rest of the crew. Sergeant Jake Miller, a burly man with a scar running down his left cheek, was checking the weapon systems. Nearby, Dr. Rachel Bennett, a petite woman with sharp features, reviewed data from earlier reconnaissance missions. Both were focused, their expressions grim. This wasn't just another mission. It was a gamble, one that could cost them everything. As the Eclipse entered contested space, the mood aboard the ship grew heavier. The crew worked in silence, each person absorbed in their tasks. Hours passed, and the first signs of trouble appeared when the sensors picked up faint energy signatures ahead. Emily frowned as she analyzed the readings. "It's a Varith scout ship. They're scanning the area." "Can we avoid them?" Daniel asked, leaning closer to her screen. "For now," she replied. "But if they change course, we'll be spotted." Daniel gave the order to alter their trajectory slightly, keeping the Eclipse hidden in the shadow of a nearby asteroid field. The maneuver worked for a while, but as they neared Proxima Centauri, the Varith presence grew denser. Patrols crisscrossed the region, their movements methodical and relentless. Then came the breakthrough. While monitoring communications, Rachel intercepted a transmission. Her eyes widened as she listened. "Captain, "You need to hear this." She played the recording aloud. It was garbled, but certain words stood out: human prisoners and processing facility. Daniel exchanged a glance with Emily. "Looks like our mission just got more complicated." "We can't ignore it," Emily said firmly. "If those people are alive, we have a duty to help them." Agreeing, Daniel called for a quick meeting with the senior crew. "Our original plan was to gather intel and leave. Now we know there are captives being held nearby. We'll adjust our approach. Jake, prep the landing team. Rachel, keep analyzing those transmissions. Emily, I want options for infiltration routes." The next few hours were a blur of activity. The crew worked tirelessly, preparing for what lay ahead. Tensions flared occasionally. Jake argued with Emily over tactical decisions, and Rachel seemed unusually quiet. But Daniel kept everyone focused. When the Eclipse finally reached the coordinates of the suspected prisoner facility, the crew gathered on the bridge to assess the situation. Through the viewport, they could see a massive structure floating in the void, surrounded by Verith ships. Its design was alien, jagged, and asymmetrical, with glowing veins of energy pulsing along its surface. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever horrors awaited inside, one thing was clear: rescuing the prisoners wouldn't be easy. "We'll need to disable their defenses first," Emily said, pointing to weak points on the schematic. "And we'll have to do it quietly. No direct confrontation unless absolutely necessary." Daniel nodded. "All right, let's get to work. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human who's ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of a better future." As the crew dispersed to carry out their assignments, Daniel allowed himself a moment of reflection. The weight of leadership pressed heavily on him, but he found solace in the determination of his team. They might be outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the Verith lacked: heart. And sometimes that made all the difference. The stars shimmered like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse of space. In the year 2247, humanity had stretched its reach far beyond Earth, colonizing distant planets and moons. But peace was fragile, a thin veil masking the growing tensions between humans and an alien coalition known as the Verith. These aliens, with their sleek ships and advanced weapons, had begun to push back against human expansion, threatening colonies on the outer edges of explored space. Daniel Carter stood on the observation deck of Fort Haven, a massive space station orbiting Mars. His hands rested lightly on the railing as he stared out at the endless void. A decorated officer in the United Earth Defense Force, Daniel had seen his share of battles. Yet something about this moment felt different. The air carried a weight, a sense that the coming days would shape the future of humanity itself. "Captain Carter," came a voice from behind him. It was calm but firm, belonging to General Laura Hayes. She stepped forward, her uniform crisp and her expression unreadable. "We need to talk." Daniel turned to face her, nodding respectfully. "General." Laura wasted no time. "The situation is worse than we thought. The Verith are mobilizing near Proxima Centauri. They've already attacked 2 of our supply lines and captured several of our people." Her eyes narrowed. "We believe they're planning something bigger, a strike deep into our territory." Daniel's jaw tightened. Captured humans. That wasn't just aggression. It was a message. "What do you need me to do?" "You'll lead a covert mission," she said, handing him a data tablet. "Your objective is reconnaissance. Get close enough to gather intel without being detected. If possible, find out what they're planning. And if there's any truth to the rumors about prisoners." He glanced at the tablet, scanning the details. The mission would be dangerous, requiring stealth and precision. He'd have to assemble a small team, skilled individuals who could handle themselves under pressure. One name immediately came to mind: Lieutenant Emily Dawson. She was one of the best strategists in the fleet, though her quiet demeanor often made others underestimate her. Still, Daniel trusted her instincts. As Laura left, Daniel returned to gazing at the stars. This wasn't just another assignment. It felt personal, as if the fate of everything he cared about rested on his shoulders. He sighed and tapped the communicator on his wrist. "Lieutenant Dawson, report to the briefing room. We've got work to do." Emily arrived within minutes, her sharp green eyes locking onto Daniel as she entered. "Sir, we've been given a new mission," he began, gesturing for her to sit. "It's classified, high risk, and likely to get messy. I want you by my side." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Wouldn't miss it." Over the next hour, they pored over maps and schematics, discussing potential routes and contingencies. Daniel knew they couldn't afford mistakes. The Varith were ruthless, their technology unmatched. But humanity had something they didn't: resilience. No matter how dire things became, humans always found a way to adapt, to survive. By the time they finished, the sun, or rather, Mars' distant glow, was rising outside the observation window. Daniel leaned back in his chair, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him once more. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready. For better or worse, war was coming. And when it did, Daniel Carter intended to be standing on the front lines, fighting not just for victory, but for the legacy of all humankind.